Hi there, my name's Chandra and I am the content writer with Market Apartments and I'm here with Danny.
Hi, I'm Danny. I'm the social media specialist.
And today we wanted to talk about social media because one thing we've noticed working with a lot of our clients is that there's a lot that they don't know about social media and a lot that they're doing wrong when they come sign on with us. Marketing apartments is kind of a complicated, weird subject. It's a strange niche to be in. And so reaching the people you want to reach can be pretty tricky. So today we wanted to talk to Danny about that and see what's been working for her, what we've found to be effective with our clients, and maybe some ways that you can implement those things and make your social media better and get, more leads, more renters, and also keep the ones you have. So, Danny, I'm gonna kind of let you just get started, but when it comes to social media, say a property's just getting started or they're trying to completely redo it because they haven't had a lot of success. Where do you think they should focus right at the beginning?
First of all, you want to consider your audience, and your audience is renters, but there's also two parts to that. So there's renters that you have already, and then there's renters that you want to attract, essentially. So what we've noticed is generally you're kind of speaking to those two audiences. So kind of having a mix of posts and things that attract those different types is kind of a good thing. It's a good way to start. But you always want to have the human aspect because we've all also noticed that that gets the most like clicks and likes and in
Mm-hmm.
actual engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually have a list of posts that will do that in our guide, but we'll be linking to that below. So,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah.
Danny's put
um,
together a really great social media guide with I'm sure it includes some of the advice,
oh
tips.
yeah,
That's something we'll go
definitely.
over today for sure, but you'll get a little bit, more in detail with some of those things. Yeah, Danny's got that social media guide linked below. So make sure that you download that so that you can kind of cover these tips again, read them, refer to them when you need them, and implement them. So what you're saying though with the two audiences, like the renters that you already have and the ones that you want to get.
Mhm.
So like whether you're looking to fill your occupancy or you're trying to focus on resident retention, do you find it's difficult to like address both of those audiences? Is it like hard to do that? Because that seems like a very different goal. And
Yes.
then as a second part to that question, are there certain platforms or certain methods that work better for one or the other, like where your focus should switch?
Yeah. So I'm going to try to take that just like one at a time with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, it is difficult to reach both audiences, but there are ways that you can do it. For instance, apartment like living tips. People are
Mm-hmm.
very interested in apartment living tips, and
Mm-hmm.
those will appeal to both audiences. So, and we've actually noticed that that works better on Pinterest because
Mm-hmm.
it's something that people are actually searching for, and so that comes up. And like we've discussed before, but maybe some people don't know. But when you search in Google for apartment living tips, there are things that can pop up that are from Pinterest. So that's how you can reach more people with SEO using Pinterest. So we've noticed that that works really well. Things that I've tried for Facebook specifically is like holidays, like holiday posts or recipes, like hot chocolate
Mm-hmm.
around December
Mm-hmm.
or like pumpkin pie around Thanksgiving. Those have worked really well. Also activities in the area, especially if someone's just moved to the area, they don't know what's around. They don't know
Mm-hmm.
like what activities there are. For example, in St. George, like I know a lot about what's there in St. George, so I can just go ahead and put those together. And that's really useful for residents that you have right now who just moved into the area or residents or like renters who are looking for those types of things, but they don't even have a place to live yet. So that can
Mm-hmm.
appeal to both audiences too.
Do you want like most of your posts to appeal to both audiences, or is it better to like really focus on one and then also have some posts that appeal to both? Like, I want to know a little bit more about how
That's a
that
good
works.
question.
Just because
Yeah,
from my perspective, as like the content writer, a lot of times you have a very specific audience. Like
right.
if I'm writing for the web page for the apartment, these are all going to be people who are looking for an apartment. It's very
Yes.
specific. People who already live there aren't like perusing the website for fun unless they're clicking specifically on like the residence tab. So it's not like the content on there is very specific. So
Right.
I don't usually have to like divide attention in this field, like other niches,
Yes.
sure, but like specifically with apartments, I don't usually have to divide it. So it's
Right.
interesting to me how kind of split it is when it comes to social media. So
Yeah.
I would
So
just love to know more about that.
sure, yeah. So it kind of depends on the different platform too. Because I think with Pinterest, I think it's better to go after renters who are not your residents, but could be.
Mhm.
I think with Instagram, it's actually better to create your sense of community there. So I think on
Mhm.
Instagram, you would want to be including your residents. So doing like the scavenger hunts or the giveaways or like contests or things like that that actually get people onto your Instagram, but then
Mhm.
also get them engaging with it as well. With Facebook, I think it's better to do kind of a mix, but like appealing more to your current residents there.
Mhm.
And you also want to remember that you can include links in Facebook, so you should always do that.
Right, right. I always forget because you can't do that in Instagram. So
Right? Yeah.
that does make that like a better place for people to be able to access maybe your website or,
Hmm.
you know, places that they could potentially apply. I mean, I know you said to focus
Yes.
on like your current residents, but if perchance, you know, somebody sees
Yeah.
it, there are definitely a lot more ways that they could do that via Facebook or
Hmm.
Pinterest. Whereas, yeah, Instagram,
Yeah.
it's just that's a little bit trickier.
Yeah. Like on Facebook, we would actually like funnel people towards these different areas. Like if you have an email list to like that you want to get people onto, definitely put that in there, your landing pages.
Mhm.
If you want to get more people on your Instagram, like link over there, be like, this is a post we did over here, learn more over here, like, you know, or get people to your website, like you said, like
Mhm.
it's a good place to link to other places.
Mhm.
And on Pinterest, you can do that too. Link back to
Mhm.
your blog post, to your website, to your Instagram reel, whatever it is. But
Mhm.
yeah, you definitely want to utilize the links when you can.
Okay. So let's say I am I'm a property manager. I just basically got started with the social media at the property I'm managing. So I'm doing it myself and I kind of have a better idea of my target audience now because I know that, we are trying to attract some renters because we do have a few available apartments, but we've got like a pretty good community going. So my attention's already a little bit divided in both those audiences. So
Right,
like, what would you recommend that I understand, okay, who I'm trying to reach?
right.
I kind of get, the vibe of my community. I kind of get what people might be interested in. Um, like, what would you do next? Where would you focus your attention first? Or is there a certain type of, like, I don't know whether it would be like a certain platform would be better to focus on first, or whether a certain topic, like if there's something I should talk about that tends to work better. I don't know, what's usually your approach?
That's a good question. So I think I would divide it between which platforms have which audiences, and then I would come up with posts that talk to those audiences specifically. So for instance, on Pinterest, I would do like an apartments living tip that
Mm-hmm.
is like it's a really trendy topic. And so
Mm-hmm.
it'll get searched a lot more. And then I would lead them to our website and be like, if you want to learn more about this, here it is. And if you have a blog, that's great. And then you have like your email subscription in the blog, embedded in the blog too, so people can just sign up. For Instagram, I would actually put it out there to my residents, be like, look, we have this referral program. If you have everyone or anyone who's looking for an apartment, like here's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook, I would do a couple different posts because you're trying to reach the different audiences there too. So I would let them know this is what we're doing for the referral program, or if you have a move-in special, just be like, if you have anyone in your life who's like looking for an apartment, wants a new space. But then I would also do like another post that's like not quite like an ad, but you could boost it if you wanted to. So it would be like, and check us out. This is what we've got. These are our amenities. Our floor plans work really well on Facebook too. We've noticed that,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the ads. So posting like your floor plan, like a literal picture of it and being like, this is what we've got, this is what the apartment has, these are the community amenities. So yeah, we've actually seen those do really well, so that's what I would recommend.
So talking about things like your floor plans, the amenities, the kinds of things that potential renters want to know are really good to talk about when you're trying to reach those prospects on
Mhm.
things like Facebook or Pinterest or whatever.
Yep.
And then, like you said, if you're talking to renters, you can obviously talk about your referral program, like you just
Mhm.
mentioned, or things within the community, like you said, scavenger hunts, giveaways, I guess resident events.
Mhm.
Uh, so I mean, that I guess does make it a lot clearer in my mind, like, okay, well, this is what's working for this type of audience and what's
Right.
working for others. What else would you recommend as far as social media goes? I feel like for me anyway, when I'm looking into social media stuff, I always hear so many conflicting things, like
Oh,
how often you should post, the type of post you should be creating. Um, Everything seems to be like video, video, video now.
yes. Yeah.
Which I mean, I have nothing against that. I just like want to know how effective it is. I guess, I mean, especially in this niche, like I obviously, like
Right.
anyone, you spend some time on Instagram, maybe you do see a lot of reels, or you're on TikTok or
For sure.
you might see a lot of different types of content, but I mean, I live in an apartment and I don't know that I've ever looked at my apartment's Instagram page. Maybe once, like moving in just to be like, do they have one? Are they like,
Right. Yeah.
people like it here? Like wonder, like out of curiosity, but I haven't, followed it. So like, I don't know. I'm curious as to what you found to be effective, or how do you get people like me
Right.
who don't always follow their apartment to like
Right. Yeah.
follow and engage?
That's also a good question. We could
I know that's like
actually
more
like,
than one question, but
well, and we could talk about that like all day long because there's
Mhm,
so much with social media that you could be doing that like, and like we talked about the algorithm. Like if you know any like people who talk about like Instagram and how to like show up and rank higher, like they're
mhm,
always talking about the algorithm, and the algorithm is like always changing.
mm,
So for apartments specifically, what I would recommend is just being consistent. It's not like about a specific time of day that you have to post, but they do want to see that you show up consistently. So like if you have like a specific day of the week or a couple days of the week that you post, that's a good thing. Um, for apartments, I would definitely focus on the places that you notice in your analytics get more engagement and they get more clicks over to your website. Because you have to remember the ultimate goal of social media is like they're social platforms. So you want to create the community. And
mhm,
like if you sell or if you get renters over to your website, that's awesome. That's great because you do want conversions too. But you should be focusing more on creating a good experience for your renters or the potential renters. So
mhm,
like you can focus on it as a marketing platform, like in and of itself, but it doesn't have the conversion rates of like your email or your
mhm,
website.
mhm,
So you have to keep that in mind as well. So
mhm.
it depends on your goals really as
Okay.
to like how you should be using the platform.
So would you say that you found social media to be more about like engagement, building trust, like, I don't know, like helping people kind of get a sense of who you are, know that you're reliable,
Yes.
like, I guess even to the point that you made about consistency, not only are you showing the algorithm that, but if your residents or potential residents, I guess, but if your residents follow you, then you're also showing them or any prospect who might glance at it that, oh, well, they show up there consistently. So if they care about their
Right.
social media, if they care about this and they're responding to people, like maybe they also care about all these other things. At least for me,
Right.
that's what I would see. Like I said, I'm not
For
always
sure.
following my apartment community, but I do notice like, oh, if they've got resident events or they're sending out emails or like, I feel like they're so involved, that means they care.
Right.
So like, I think just to what you're saying, that's what it sounds like to me, that
Oh
there's
yeah.
this kind of like, uh, I don't know, I guess a trust built when you're showing up
Yes.
consistently.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's it's another place online where you show up, so you're building that social proof essentially,
Mhm.
and it is part of your branding, and you want to keep that consistent as well so people recognize you. And like the people who tend to post more consistently and more engaging stuff too for their renters,
Mhm.
because that's what it's all about. It's about helping renters, essentially.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we have seen more engagement there. We've seen more profile visits. We've seen more clicks to like the websites and stuff from there. So it does build social proof and it does build trust with renters for sure,
Mhm.
being consistent and also making the posts all about the renters. So like
Mhm.
the things that they want to see, because that's what people they're going to engage with, is it the things that matter to them. So if
Yeah.
you're trying to build that engagement, you got to post things that are all about them, the audience.
Yeah. So I guess I'm wondering how you know what they want to see. I mean, because you mentioned briefly checking your analytics,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
So you can
Hmm.
see what people have clicked on in that. But is this like, oh, like trial and error? Like you're going, I'm going to post about this amenity, or I'm going to post about this resident event, or I'm going to post about, I don't know, some giveaway, right? So you've got very different things. And then is it just like trial and error, or is there like, I don't know, a formula you've seen work? Like how do you approach that initial phase? And then, I mean, obviously analytics is a whole other discussion. I mean, I haven't
Right.
done a deep dive into social media analytics, but that might have to be a different conversation if
Yeah,
people want to like really dive deep into
for
how
sure.
the analytics works or like where you go to look at them. But I guess maybe just, yeah, I want to know, is it like a trial and error process where you're like putting out a bunch of things and then just kind of seeing what works when you look at your analytics? Or is there already kind of like, well, you know your audience, so there's already some things you know that you could post? I don't know, like how do you navigate that?
Also a good question. So yes, it is a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of experimentation. Like one of the things of social media is like, since it is always changing, you kind of do have to experiment and you kind of have to stay on top of the trends too. Um, that's if you're really trying, like really trying to do well on social media. But and we actually have a whole list of um social media posts that work really well
Mhm.
in that guide as well. So if people are interested, they can go check that out.
Great.
But with renters, we've noticed they like the apartment living tips and they do like the holiday posts. They like the giveaway posts too. So it's like and yes, like this is something that we had to figure out through trial and error. We had to like check the analytics and we had to see, well, they're interacting with this post that's like, if you're on the second level and you're carrying groceries and you have like bags and bags of groceries, you don't want to make two trips, get a cart,
Hmm.
take those up the elevator, like tips like that. Or how to make smaller spaces feel bigger. That
Hmm.
was one that got a lot of attention too. So it's like you do have to check your analytics. And if you want to go ahead and like you want to do that on your own, you're just starting out, that's great. That's one way to do it. Or you can just grab our guide. It goes through a whole bunch of things that
Hmm.
we've seen do really well. And but yeah, like social media it's supposed to be fun,
Hmm.
but it's also supposed to be like it evolves. And so you do have to keep experimenting with things. Sometimes like reels that you didn't think were going to do well are the ones that do really well like in a week or two. So it does take a lot of experimenting. It does take a lot of like checking the analytics, seeing if people are commenting to or sharing
Hmm.
or saving, because
Yeah.
those are two really big factors as well.
Hmm. That's so interesting to me because I guess I think of social media as, I don't know, you think of viral videos and everything happening so fast. I mean, especially if you follow a lot of people on, say, Instagram. I mean, every time you reload the page, there's like 100 new
Oh yeah,
things.
for
So it's
sure.
constantly going, going, going. But it sounds like social media really is kind of a long game. Like you have
Yeah,
to try a few things, see what worked, try again.
yep,
And also just, I think it really speaks to what you said at the very beginning about knowing your audience.
Yep.
Because even those little things you mentioned about like taking the cart for the groceries or like how to make a small space feel bigger, of course that's huge for renters. I'm wondering that myself. We just moved to a new apartment that's smaller than the one we had. Because we were, it's a trade-off. We've decided we wanted a better location, and that's great. We're very happy there, but it is different. And so it shows like, oh, this is something renters actually care about,
Yes.
and I think those of us who maybe are property managers or who are in apartment marketing like we are sometimes a bit disconnected from what the renter actually needs and what the renter actually wants and what the rental experience is like. So
Yeah.
like, what are the common frustrations? What are some things you could resolve? I mean, those are things that I'm sure any property manager watching this thinks of anyway, because they know the kinds of questions, complaints, issues that they might have like regularly. And if they show up often enough, they know, okay, well, this is obviously like a pain point. Let's go fix it. So I think if you're very aware of your renters and your community, that might give you a good idea of some of the things they might like to see on your social media pages.
Hmm. For
Mhm.
sure. Yeah. And that's one of the things renters like to see too. They like to see that you're doing these things that build community, and
Mm,
that like, because you're putting in effort, and you're making them feel
yeah,
good, and you're giving them something like
yeah,
something fun to do, or like something of
yeah.
value. And they want to know that you care enough to do those things. So
Mhm.
resident events, they actually do really well as posts.
I don't know. They also gives a lot more incentive for maybe you're struggling to get your renters to follow you on social media.
Yep.
Um, if they know that you regularly update your social media
Yeah.
page and that info with whatever events are happening, um, I think that's a huge one. If they enjoy and attending those kind of events, or maybe they're friends with their neighbors. I think especially if you've got like families at the
Oh
property,
yeah, for sure.
um, a lot of those kids end up becoming really close friends with other kids in the
Oh
neighborhood.
yeah.
There are a lot of things like that where you can actually foster real community, and it
Hmm.
encourages your renters to
Yeah.
follow you on social media, because then they know they're going to get those updates regularly. This has been an interesting conversation, mostly because, you and I are marketers. That's what we do. So everything is always about, well, who's our audience?
Right.
What do they need? Kind of thing.
Yep.
How can we solve some sort of pain point for them? Like that's the main focus of marketing,
Right.
trying to help whoever our target audience is get what they need. So for us, obviously, it's property managers, owners, people who might be watching this video who are like looking for some marketing help. But I think sometimes as a property manager, like, marketing's part of your job, but maybe you don't always think of it that way, especially when it comes to resident retention,
For sure.
on social media. Like, oh, social media is just fun, or it's, there are just so many things that you like preconcept, like misconceptions you might have about kind of that marketing arm of,
Mhm.
your job and of keeping your residents. But it's the same thing. It's still, who's your audience? So who are your renters? Who are your potential renters? What do they need? What are the frustrations they have? What do they like? What are their interests? And knowing them really, really well, so that whatever you post, share, create is really in line with that. So you can get that kind of engagement. And I mean, because in the end, right, social media it might be effective at getting you a few renters. It might be effective at helping you keep some, which would be even better.
Yeah.
But it's not the main point. You're not doing social media to do social media. You're doing it because the renters are what matters, and they're the
Right.
whole point of your job.
Yeah.
So, I think that just really your approach with social media and what you've seen be effective really, I think, underscores that and the knowledge you need to have about the people you're trying to help.
Oh, for sure. It's all about connection.
Mhm.
You just want to connect with the people that you're serving, essentially.
Mhm.
And that's what it is too, is it's service. So
Mhm.
you just gotta think about the things that serve them.
Yeah. I know that you said that consistency mattered, but it
Oh,
wasn't
for
really
sure.
about like a time of day,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. For anyone viewing the video, is there like, would you say, oh, start once a week? Is there a certain amount like of the month that you should do it? Does it vary via platform? Like, let's just give them a starting point, because they're
Oh,
already
yeah.
like, okay, well, now I've got some ideas. I'm gonna get Danny's guide and I'm gonna figure out, some of the posts that have worked, and I'm gonna start there. how often should they be doing it just starting out?
That's a good question. Okay, so what we do, we have different packages where we post a certain amount of times per month for our
Mhm.
clients. And but I wanted to see if we could do better.
Mhm.
So I did an experiment where I posted 8 times per month for our clients, and I just wanted to see if that did better. It absolutely did better. So if you
Mhm.
can post about 8 times per month, I mean, if you're just starting out, obviously do what you can. So if
Mhm.
you don't have the time, it's okay. But if you can do a little bit more, like once a day would be great. You don't have to worry about the weekends as much. People are busy, they're doing their own things. They're not really on social media as much. But like during the week is better. So like Monday through Friday, not so much Friday night, because again, people are out doing their own thing. But yeah, so if you can post about 8 times a month, like obviously if you can't, that's fine. But if you can, that's a good starting place. If you post more often, there is more
Mhm.
of a chance that your people are gonna like see it, like if it's in the feed, in the Instagram feed. So yeah. But again, like focus on being consistent.
Totally. Okay, well, that's great. So I guess just to kind of wrap up with what I've heard, first of all, we've talked about how your target audience is maybe the most important part of this whole process, actually. It's not as much about what platforms or what you're posting, but about your target audience and just making sure that whoever that is, in whatever instance, you're really trying to help them and trying to reach them, right? So we talked a lot about that. You talked about the different platforms and how certain things might be better for certain audiences. So if you're really trying to build community with your current renters, maybe focus a little bit more on Instagram.
Mhm.
And share the resident events and the things that are currently going on, and some fun like seasonal ideas. If you're trying to reach other potential renters, maybe that's where you can broaden what you talk about a little bit, where you're talking about some apartment living tips, make it a little bit more general, or highlight your floor plans, your amenities, some great features you have that might be really appealing to potential renters.
Yeah.
So those were kind of the big, I think, dividing groups there.
Yeah.
And then the biggest key takeaway, I think, on top of that is to just be consistent. So obviously you
Mhm.
gave us that great number of, hey, if you can do 8 times a month, we've seen that's really effective.
Yep.
So that might be a goal to shoot for, but if you're not quite there, consistency is the most important part. So just making sure you
Mhm.
have a presence.
Yep,
Yeah.
for sure.
Great, great. So that was very enlightening for me. So I hope it helped anyone who was watching. Like I said, I do a lot of marketing for apartments, but my scope is pretty small because I'm focusing more on websites, email newsletters. It's a very different approach than kind of like social media where you're just putting something out there and hoping someone
Right.
sees it. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad that Danny was able to kind of let us into how that works. And like she mentioned, we've got that social media guide that she put together. It's really detailed. It's got a lot of great info in it. So make sure you grab that. It's completely free and we'll have it linked in the description. So get that, download it, go ahead and dive into social media. If you do want a bit more help than that, we work for Market Apartments. We obviously also do social media for our clients. So if you're interested in a little bit more help or a little bit more guidance, or you want to work specifically with Danny, because she obviously knows a lot, definitely reach out. You can also find links to our website and all that info down below. And yeah, thanks for being here and thanks for watching.
Thank you so much. This was fun.